Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this very important press conference. First, we'll have speaking DA Gascon. Next, we'll have Sheriff Luna. And finally, we have Brittany, Ryan's fiance. Up here, we have our two deputy district attorneys who will be prosecuting this matter, Michael Blake and David Avazian. We also have Ryan's loving family here, Kim, Ryan's mother, Mike, Ryan's father, Chad, and Katie, his brother and sister, and Brittany, his fiance. DA Gascon.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the men and women of the Sheriff Department, thank you for being here today. Appreciate you. Our trial team, thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Sheriff Luna. You know, someone that was a police officer for over 30 years, this hits home in many ways. But today we're here to announce the filing of charges in a case that deeply concerns all of us. Kevin Salazar is facing charges of murder accompanied by 3 special circumstances allegations in the murder of Deputy Ryan Klingenbrummer. First special circumstance that we have alleged is that the killing was committed against a peace officer. The second special circumstance is that he was lying and waiting. And the third is by means discharge of a firearm from a motor vehicle. Ryan was just 30 years old. He was an 8-year veteran of the Los Angeles Sheriff Department serving Palmdale and the Antelope Valley. And Sheriff Luna said the other day that Ryan was a superstar. He became a training officer, which is a position of honor and reserved for the best of the best, very early in his career. He dedicated himself to the calling that carries with it the weight of responsibility and the promise of making our community safer. But his life wasn't only about the uniform he wore or the star that he proudly adorned on his chest. It was also about the potential, the life that he could have touched, the crimes that he could have prevented, and the difference that he could have made in the life of those he swore to protect. He was newly engaged to be married. He's a beloved son, a brother, a colleague to many, and a friend and a community member. His sacrifice serves as a reminder of the courage and dedication that defines our law enforcement community. The loss of any life is a tragedy, but when it's a sworn officer, someone who has taken an oath to protect our communities and is taken from us, it cuts deeper. It's an assault on the very fiber of our community and civilization. It is a stark reminder of the dangers our law enforcement officers face every day while selfishly serving and protecting our neighborhoods. Having served as a police officer myself, I have personally experienced the bond that exists among law enforcement community. In light of the charges filed today, it is imperative that justice be served. If the defendant is found guilty, he will face severe consequences. If convicted, the defendant will face sentence of life and imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Let me emphasize that our pursuit of justice does not end with these charges. Our dedicated team of prosecutors, alongside the Sheriff Department and other agencies, will work tirelessly to ensure every aspect of this case is thoroughly examined and that all the evidence is meticulously presented and the truth is brought to light. We owe it to Ryan, his family, and every member of our community. The pursuit of justice is a solemn duty, and I want to assure you that we will leave no stone unturned in our efforts to bring closure and accountability. I want to thank the community for their help and the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department for their swift and unrelenting work apprehending the defendant in this cowardly and senseless murder of Ryan. I want to thank Sheriff Luna for his leadership during this incredible tragedy. And to Ryan's family, we want you to know that our hearts ache with you. We share our grief, and we stand with you during this profound time of sorrow. Ryan's bravery and unwavering commitment will never be forgotten, and his legacy will live on the hearts of our community. We will honor him, his memory, by continuing to work tirelessly in our pursuit of justice in this case. I'm going to turn it over now to Sheriff Luna, and then we will have, I believe it's Brittany that is going to say a few words, and then we'll answer any questions in English, and at the end we'll answer any questions that you may have in Spanish. With that, I'm going to turn it over to our sheriff.
Again, thank you all for coming here. And a lot of what I'm going to say up here is really just a lot of thank yous. Most importantly, the biggest thank you goes to the family here to my right. Not only for having the courage to stand here today, which you can only imagine how difficult it is for them. They just delivered their son's body from the coroner's office to a mortuary. Think about that for a second. They are amazing. When you hear about all the stories about Ryan and the incredible human being he was, you spend 2 minutes with this family and you understand right away why he was the way he was. Grandfather, father, mother who served with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, brother who serves with another law enforcement agency, a neighboring agency. Just incredible people, service running through their veins. And I want to personally, publicly thank you for sharing Ryan with us. We can't thank you enough. Over to my left, you have standing very proudly deputies from the Palmdale station who are his brothers, who work with him day in and day out. They put their life on the line every day, just like Ryan did. And to remind everybody, Ryan had just left the station in uniform in a black and white police car, sitting there just waiting for a red light to turn. And he's never coming home again. Thank you for what you do. And I know you did everything you could to take care of Ryan and to take care of each other. We're hurting right now. The family's hurting. This department's hurting. So I do appreciate all the work that all of you did because you helped us bring this case. You helped us arrest this individual who committed this ambush, murder of our deputy. You came, you reported, people came forward, and in true partnership with our community in Palmdale, people stepped up to the plate and provided information to our detectives who were relentless. I had to tell some of these men and women, hey, you got to go home and get some rest. They would look at me turn away, and continue to work. That's a level of commitment they showed to solve this case, all the way through to the arrest, the professionalism, the discipline that they showed. And I also want to end because, honestly, you need to hear, you need to hear from Brittany. That's who we're here to listen to. Before I turn it over to her, just please remember the pain that she's going through and will continue to go through. And I'm going to be standing right next to her, and I'm going to protect her like a lion. So just please respect her. But before I turn the mic over to Brittany, I would like to thank our district attorney. Him and I had several conversations during the last several days. We promised the parents that we would arrest this individual. They talked to me about prosecution, and based on the DA's announcement today, we are hoping for nothing less than the maximum punishment available under the law for this individual. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Brittany. I'll have her step up. Please remember what she's been through the last 3 or 4 days.
My name is Brittany Lindsay. I'm Ryan's fiance. Brittany Lindsey. First of all, I want to thank each and every officer from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for everything you've done for our family the last few days. I also want to say thank you to anyone that helped solve this case. Ryan was the best guy I've ever met. He was so thoughtful, caring, and everyone who met him or knew him loved him. I'm so happy I was able to love him. It was not long enough. I couldn't wait to start our lives together. We were just engaged, planning to get married and start a family. Ryan, I miss you and I love you so much. I don't know how to live without you, and I didn't ever want to imagine it. Now look down on all your brothers and sisters in blue. Keep them safe so this never happens to anyone else. Protect them and watch over them as they continue to serve their community. Until we meet again.
Are there any questions in English before we turn it over to Spanish?
Mr. Gascon, good afternoon. Thank you for doing this. Can you talk a little bit about the special circumstances and how you came to those conclusions, and was that a tough decision for you?
It was not a tough decision. We have a process. I'm going to turn it over to the trial team to get into the details, but I can tell you that what made it tough is a tragedy. My family and I have been around policing since I left the Army many years ago. I have been to way too many funerals. I have talked to way too many families, both as a police officer, assistant chief, and chief of police. And I can tell you there's nothing more difficult for me than what I've gone through in the last few days. And I know that Sheriff Luna has had a lot of sleepless nights. Clearly, the family will be in trauma for the rest of their life. So the decision was not difficult. We follow a process, and I'd like to turn it over to our prosecutors that can give you more details.
Did you have a further question? Yeah, I wanted to find out about the weapon, and if it was purchased legally. Step to the microphone, identify yourself, please.
My name is Michael Blake,
Senator Blake. Yeah, there you go.
Blake. And at this point, I think it's really important to recognize, the flags out here are still at half-mast. This is less than a week old. We just had our very first appearance in court. And this is the kind of case that will be investigated all the way until the end of the entire court process. All we can say at this point about any weapon is that we believe there was a purchase made in the weeks before this crime occurred. But beyond that, at this point, we can't offer any details about any weapons in the case.
Can you at least tell us how many weapons were seized?
No.
Thank you.
You mentioned a purchase, though, Mr. Blake. Question is, did this man purchase that weapon?
Again, we believe the suspect in the case, who is now the defendant, Mr. Salazar, did purchase a firearm in the weeks before the crime occurred, but that's all we can say.
Can you say whether the gun was legally purchased?
I cannot.
And can you just discuss what has come forth as a motive? Did the deputy and the defendant, had they ever interacted before? Did they know each other? Was he targeted specifically as this particular deputy, or is there a different reason he may have been targeted?
Well, you've seen the footage. He was certainly targeted. We're learning more about the case as this unfolds. And again, we're at the very, very beginning. The Sheriff's Department has done a monumental thing to solve this and get to the point where we are today, where we actually have a prosecutable case. And now there's a long court process and a very intensive investigation that's going to continue. But I can't say any more than that.
But targeted, when you say he's definitely targeted, was he targeted as Deputy Ryan Hickenrunner, or was he targeted just any deputy?
We can't answer that. I cannot answer that.
Mr. Gascon, it seems like it's a possible death penalty case. What is the status of your office's policy on pursuing the death penalty?
Look, if I thought that seeking the death penalty was going to bring Ryan back to us, I will seek it without any reservation, but it won't. If I thought that the death penalty was going to stop people from committing brutal murders, I will seek it, but we know that it won't. The reality is that the death penalty doesn't serve as a deterrent, and the death penalty does not bring people back. Let me finish, please. What I can assure you is that we're going to do everything within our legal power to make sure that this defendant never gets out of prison. Yes.
What interactions had this defendant had with law enforcement? Had there been calls to the Palmdale home previously? Had he been involuntary committed? And I'm sure everyone here wants to give their condolences to the family.
Look, this is an ongoing investigation. You heard prosecutors. We have a lot of
They're coming forward.
Yep.
I can handle that.
Yeah, sure, please. Yeah.
State your name.
David Avazian.
Spell that last name.
Ayvazian.
Thank you.
Now, we have unconfirmed reports that there may be a mental health history, but we're going to take every step that we can with the Sheriff's Department to get actual records to see if there's been any actual contact with any mental health professionals. And so at this point, I don't think we can speculate as to what his mental health history is or diagnose him, but it's an ongoing investigation. Obviously, as competent and ethical prosecutors, we're not going to close our eyes or ears to any evidence that we hear. We're going to do everything we can to build a full picture of who this person is, and in order to determine what the motive was and what role, if any, mental health played in this crime.
And is he cooperating with investigators?
It's an ongoing investigation. I don't want to discuss that.
Sheriff, if you don't mind, but can you give us a sense of how many tips you got in?
As you see from our partners at the district attorney's office, our job was to bring the community forward, get every fact, piece of evidence that we can provide so they can present the best case possible. There are a lot of factors involved here. There's a part of me that wants to stand up here and say, hey, this is this, and there's so much unconfirmed information. We're still in the process of putting it all together, which includes part of the question you're asking. But I got to be honest with you, we have a long, difficult journey ahead of us. And we have one goal collectively, and that's to make sure that this individual never is able to get out on the street again. Every question you guys are asking is solid, it's good. There is public interest in that, but right now our priority is to get this individual prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And for that reason, that's why neither we and I'm going to be bold and speak for the district attorney's office, the prosecutors, we don't want to put this out right now. And it's not because we have something to hide, it's because we need to get this individual prosecuted with the facts and evidence that we have. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions in English before we move to Spanish? One more?
Can you discuss what led you to him, there have been reports about 2 road rage incidents, someone may have what
Can I
brought
just-
you from
okay,
that
just-
video to
Look, you heard the sheriff, you heard my team. This is an ongoing investigation. The last thing that we want to do here today is put out information that may compromise the prosecution or that might lead the public to a wrong conclusion. We're not being cagey. We're simply protecting the integrity of the investigation and the prosecution. Our number one concern right now is to make sure that this individual never, ever gets out of prison. And
Thank you.
everyone is working really hard. Let me turn it over to Spanish
One
now.
of your charges is lying in wait, or the special circumstances. What was he doing to lie in wait?
You want to give a quick explanation?
One thing I'd like to add, David Avazian, is that Mr. Blake and I reviewed the evidence in conjunction with our supervisors, in conjunction with the administration, and obviously with the assistance of the Sheriff's Homicide, which obviously did an amazing job. We would not file the case as we did today if we did not believe that the evidence as it stands today is proof beyond a reasonable doubt for 12 jurors to convict this person. Now, obviously, we're not going to close our eyes or ears. We're going to keep listening to and hearing evidence, and we're going to keep collecting evidence and do the best we can to paint a fuller picture. But at this point, we believe the evidence is sufficient for a conviction. That being said, you had a question about the laying in wait. If you've seen the video and the way it's been described as an ambush, that is consistent with the laying in wait theory of prosecution. Does that make sense?
Thank you. Spanish
Thank you.
questions?
Okay, Spanish. Any questions in Spanish? Español.
Sí, la nueva información de hoy, ¿cuál sería lo que nos quieren comentar?
Bueno, lo que quiero comentar es los cargos que hemos puesto en este. Este es un caso que en mi oficina lo miramos muy, muy detalladamente, trabajando con la oficina del alguacil. Nuestros abogados revisaron toda la información. Ha sido una investigación muy completa que ha hecho el Departamento del Alguacil en un tiempo muy corto. Y los cargos que están implementándose hoy, que se implementaron en la Corte, son los cargos que nosotros profundamente creemos que son apropiados con las circunstancias de este caso y los cargos que son necesarios para traer justicia, no solamente para la familia de Ryan, pero para toda la comunidad.
Fiscal, ¿nos puede hablar del arma?
Perdón, enseguida perdón.
Sí, porque ellos no hablan español, decirnos quiénes están aquí.
Desde luego. Los que tenemos aquí de la familia de Ryan, tenemos a su mamá, Kim, que está aquí. Tenemos a su papá, Mike. Tenemos a su hermano, Chad. Y tenemos a sus hermanas, Katie. Además de eso, tenemos a Brittany, que ya habló en inglés. Ella era su prometida. Estaban empezando una vida nueva, se querían casar. Y desafortunadamente eso no va a suceder en este caso.
Could you do that in English, please, sir? Because I think you were introducing the family, right?
I did. I thought it was introduced already, but I'll do it again, gladly. No problem. Yeah, so we have with us Kim, and she's Ryan's mom. We have Mike, his father. We have Chad, his brother. We also have Katie, sister. And you guys already heard from Brittany. Brittany is a fiance. Sí.
¿Cuántas armas encontraron y a quiénes les pertenecían?
Sí, en este momento no podemos hablar de las armas, porque como explicamos en inglés, queremos mantener la integridad de la investigación. Esta es una investigación que todavía está continuando. El Departamento del Alguacil ha hecho un trabajo maravilloso en muy poco tiempo para entregarnos un caso que podemos ya encauzar, pero queremos proteger este caso porque queremos asegurarnos de que el acusado en este caso va a enfrentar las consecuencias mayores que la ley permite. ¿Alguna otra pregunta?
Fiscal, ¿cómo ha impactado
caso tanto a su oficina como usted dijo que personalmente lo había impactado mucho.
Bueno, mire, primero que nada, personalmente es muy doloroso, sobre todo para alguien como yo y como el alguacil, que hemos estado como oficiales de la ley por décadas. Para la familia es desastroso. Para estos hombres que están aquí y mujeres es lo mismo, pero yo creo que para toda la comunidad, cuando un oficial de la ley es asesinado cuando está haciendo su trabajo, no es solamente un asalto a esa persona y a la comunidad, es un asalto a la civilización, es un asalto a nuestra comunidad entera. Y por eso estamos tomando este caso de la manera que lo estamos tomando, porque es muy importante que hayan las consecuencias profundas que este caso se merece. Una pregunta más, por favor.
¿Nos
Sí.
puede confirmar si el departamento del sheriff respondió a varias llamadas de emergencia a la residencia de los Salazares?
Sí tenemos información, pero como estamos diciendo ahorita, todavía estamos investigando a ver cuántas veces sí fuimos. So, no te quiero dar información que no es completa en este minuto. Gracias. I think that concludes our questions. Thank you.
Fiscal, por último, ¿va a buscar la pena máxima para este individuo?
Si es convicto, va a estar en la cárcel el resto de su vida.